France, the country known for revolution, rebellion, and reshaping history. But in the modern era, another kind of revolution began. Not on the streets at first, but inside politics. A young man, unknown to most of France just a decade ago, rose to become the president of one of the most powerful nations in Europe, Emmanuel Macron. But his journey would not be simple. It would bring hope, reform, and one of the most divided political eras in modern French history. This is the story of power, protest, and a nation struggling with change. Emmanuel Macron is a French politician who has served as president of France since 2017 and, by virtue of that office, co-prince of Andorra. He rose rapidly from civil service and investment banking into national politics, becoming one of the most influential European leaders of the 21st century. Macron was re-elected in 2022 and remains a central figure in debates about France's economy, European integration, and international security. Rise to power. Macron was born in Amiens in 1977 and studied at elite French institutions including Sciences Po and the École Nationale d'Administration. After working as a finance inspector and later as an investment banker at Rothschild & C, he entered government under President François Hollande and served as Minister of Economy from 2014 to 2016. Presidency and political vision. In 2016, Macron founded the centrist movement En Marche, later renamed Renaissance. He won the 2017 presidential election at age 39, becoming France's youngest head of state since Napoleon Bonaparte and the first president of the Fifth Republic elected without the backing of the traditional socialist or Gaullist parties. His platform combined pro-European, market-oriented, and reformist policies. Major challenges and reforms. Macron's presidency has been marked by significant domestic controversies, including the Yellow Vest, Gilets jaunes protests, debates over labor and pension reforms, and the use of constitutional mechanisms to pass legislation during periods of parliamentary deadlock. His government also managed France's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and enacted a controversial pension reform that gradually raises the retirement age from 62 to 64. Influence in Europe and the world. Macron is widely regarded as one of the leading advocates for a stronger and more strategically autonomous Europe. He has promoted deeper European Union cooperation on defense, industry, and economic policy, and has played a prominent diplomatic role in issues ranging from the Russian invasion of Ukraine to broader debates about Europe's place in global affairs. Supporters view him as a modernizing reformer, while critics often characterize his governing style as highly centralized and technocratic. France, the nation known for revolution, political change, and global influence. But in the modern era, one man has stood at the center of its transformation: Emmanuel Macron, a leader who rose rapidly from outside traditional politics and reshaped the future of France in a way that divided both the country and global opinion. Before entering politics at the highest level, Macron followed an unconventional path. He studied philosophy, entered elite French institutions, and later worked in investment banking at Rothschild & C, where he became involved in high-level financial deals that gave him a reputation as intelligent, strategic, and highly ambitious. This early career later earned him the nickname in media circles as a banker president, especially among critics who questioned his closeness to elite economic circles. Macron then entered public service, joining the French government as an economic advisor and later becoming Minister of Economy, Industry, and Digital Affairs. During this period, he positioned himself as a reform-minded figure who believed France needed deep structural change to compete in a global economy. In 2016, he made a decision that changed French politics completely. He left the traditional party system and launched his own political movement called En Marche, a centrist movement that rejected the old left-right political divide. At first, many political analysts underestimated him, seeing him as inexperienced and politically untested at the national level. However, the 2017 presidential election changed everything. Macron ran against established political forces, including Marine Le Pen, and in a surprising political shift, he won the presidency at just 39 years old, becoming one of the youngest leaders in modern French history. His victory was seen internationally as the rise of a new generation of European leadership. Once in power, Macron focused on economic reforms, labor law restructuring, tax adjustments, and policies aimed at increasing France's competitiveness within the European Union. He also positioned France as a strong voice in European politics, advocating for EU unity, economic cooperation, and strategic independence. However, as reforms accelerated, public resistance began to grow inside France. Many citizens, particularly from working-class and rural communities, felt the changes were increasing financial pressure and social inequality. This tension eventually led to one of the most significant protest movements in modern Europe, the Yellow Vest Movement. Yellow Vest Movement. What started as a protest against fuel prices quickly expanded into a nationwide expression of anger over taxation, living costs, and political disconnect. Streets across France witnessed mass demonstrations, road blockages, and clashes between protesters and security forces. For many citizens, it became more than a protest. It became a symbol of frustration with the political system itself. Macron responded through national addresses and policy adjustments, attempting to balance reform with public demand, but the movement marked a turning point in his presidency. From that moment, his leadership became associated not only with reform, but also with resistance and division. Despite domestic challenges, Macron continued to play a major role on the global stage. He represented France in European Union negotiations, climate agreements, and international diplomatic efforts, positioning France as a key power in shaping global policy discussions. Over time, his presidency became widely debated. Supporters describe him as a modern reformer who strengthened France's economy and elevated its global influence. Critics argue that his policies deepened social divisions and increased tensions between the government and the public. Today, Emmanuel Macron remains one of the most influential and controversial leaders in Europe, a figure whose presidency continues to shape debates about democracy, reform, inequality, and the future of France itself. And as history continues to unfold, one question remains unanswered. Will Emmanuel Macron be remembered as the leader who modernized France for the future, or the president who divided it during a time of transformation? That judgment is still being written. When most people talk about France, they think about history, culture, and revolution. But in modern geopolitics, France is no longer just a cultural power. It is a strategic global player. And at the center of that transformation stands one man, Emmanuel Macron. Unlike traditional leaders who rely on ideology or party loyalty, Macron represents a new type of leadership in Europe, one built on strategy, negotiation, and international positioning. From the beginning of his presidency, Macron understood something important about global politics. Power is no longer just military or economic. It is also diplomatic influence, speed of decision-making, and narrative control. This is why France under Macron has taken a more active role in international affairs than many expected. He has positioned France as a balancing force between major global powers, often acting as a mediator in complex geopolitical discussions. In European politics, Macron has consistently pushed for what he calls European sovereignty, the idea that Europe should become more independent in defense, energy, and economic decision-making, rather than relying heavily on external powers. This vision has placed France at the center of European Union strategic debates, especially during periods of global instability. However, leadership on the international stage often comes with internal pressure. While Macron speaks about long-term global strategy, inside France, the focus is often on immediate social and economic concerns. This creates a natural tension between global ambition and domestic expectation. One of the most interesting aspects of Macron's leadership style is his approach to decision-making. Analysts often describe it as highly centralized, fast-moving, and intellectually driven. Instead of long political consensus building, Macron prefers direct policy execution followed by public communication to explain decisions afterward. This method allows speed and efficiency, especially in crisis situations, but it also creates criticism that public participation comes after decisions rather than before them. On the global stage, Macron has also built a reputation as one of Europe's most active diplomatic voices. Whether discussing climate policy, international conflict, or economic reform, France often positions itself as a key contributor to global solutions under his leadership. But what makes Macron's leadership unique is not just policy, it is perception management. In modern politics, image is power. Macron's communication strategy is carefully structured. Speeches are highly prepared, messaging is consistent, and public appearances are designed to reinforce stability and authority. This has helped him maintain a strong international profile, even during periods of domestic unrest or political criticism. Yet, this same style has also created debate within France about emotional distance in leadership, whether modern governance requires more connection with citizens or more technical efficiency. Ultimately, Macron's presidency represents a broader shift in global politics, from traditional political identity to strategic governance, from ideological leadership to managerial leadership. And this raises a deeper question about the future of democracies. Are modern leaders becoming architects of systems, or are they still representatives of the people they govern? In Macron's case, that question remains open, because his story is not just about France. It is about how leadership itself is changing in the 21st century. In the end, leadership is never judged in the moment it is exercised. It is judged in the years that follow. Emmanuel Macron. For some, Macron will be remembered as the reformer who tried to modernize France, a leader who pushed difficult decisions in a rapidly changing world, and positioned France as a stronger voice in Europe and global affairs. For others, his presidency will be remembered differently, as a period of growing social tension, public protests, and a widening distance between political power and everyday life. But history rarely writes in simple lines of approval or rejection. It writes in complexity, in consequences, and in time. Because what Macron represents is not just one presidency. It is a reflection of a much larger transformation happening across the world, where politics, technology, economy, and society are all changing faster than traditional systems can adapt. And so the real question is not just about Emmanuel Macron. It is about the future of leadership itself. Can modern leaders balance reform with unity, speed with inclusion, power with trust? Or are we entering an era where political systems must be rebuilt from the ground up? These are the questions that remain long after speeches end, after protests fade, and after headlines move on. Because in the end, leaders come and go, but the impact they leave behind defines the history of a nation. Clapper